case congestions and delay in our courts. I've appeared in our courts for, I think, the last 40 years, 11 years with the OSJ and then private practice for 22 years. And I'm really amazed that the crisis in our courts had not been addressed. I was really working also on this kind of reforms when this was presented to me by the Quezon City on their own initiatives, because they thought that I would be the one to advocate it in the court and bank. And I did. Although it was delayed a little because some of our members are somewhat cynical over some provisions, but I prevailed over them to have it approved. And I understand it's working well. Thank you.
Justice, would you care to tell us, to summarize briefly, what these guidelines are all about and what is the purpose and how you managed to get the court to boldly implement them, at least on a pilot basis in Quezon City?
The main things about the new guideline is that it dispenses with direct examination, and all direct examinations are taken or replaced by judicial affidavits. So that shortens proceedings a great deal. That's the main thing there. And the others are lesser postponements. You're given a quota when you cannot postpone anymore, extensions, and then pleadings have to be a certain number of pages. And I really admire the judges and the lawyers in Quezon City for having put together this. Now, when I advocated it with the Supreme Court, in our court, I beg the pardon of Justice Peralta, but we were somewhat a very conservative court. And we tend to examine a lot of things, and it was a little delayed, and it was really, we really had a problem. So what I did, I told the court, we will hold one day, and you all come together, those who have any objections or comment, and we'll sit down. Well, two of them came, and then we discussed these things and made adjustments. And then when I presented it finally, there were other justices who also wanted later more time. But I said, these reforms cannot take place. This is our attitude. I'm withdrawing it already. I withdraw this proposal already. It's an embarrassment for us. And they approve it. You know, the court approved it because I really put my foot down there already.
This was implemented sometime in April this year. And what has been the feedback so far?
Well, I think they're doing very well. Huh? Some lawyers complained at the beginning, but they've gotten used to it. They're adjusting to it. They complain now of the judges that they have too many cases submitted for decision in Quezon City.
Do you feel, Justices, this is something that can be implemented nationwide in all the courts?
Well, Justice Carpio and I were talking the other day. I have another plan, no? Because actually I'm for just from abandoning the adversarial system that we have today, because that's very slow. It's a small funnel. Well, all the cases have to pass through this American system and adopt a combined adversarial and inquisitorial system patterned from successful European models. We're the only country who's doing this system that has taken us a long time. So I'm doing that also. So what we agreed with Justice Carpio is that we will do it in two phases. Maybe next week or within this month or next month, we will already come out with a resolution implementing these affidavits, judicial affidavits for all cases. In criminal cases where the penalty is not less than prison correctional, or less and lesser, then it will be by judicial affidavits. But of course, I have my own, what they call that, advocacy. My advocacy is that all cases should be heard in one sitting, one face-to-face hearing with the judgment rendered at the end of the day. In common, in ordinary cases. Of course, there are extraordinary cases. Because if we follow the current system that we have, they tell me this Maguindanao massacre will take us 20 years to finish. If we follow this new system that I'm advocating, I think we can finish it in 6 months.
What are refinements that at this point in the implementation of the reform that you are advocating for have to be made, the refinements in those guidelines, so that it may be applicable to the courts nationwide?
Oh, yes. It will apply already. It will be, well, as you know, procedural laws apply prospectively to the pending cases. If it is pending, then it will also apply. Whatever they have covered, then it will apply.
Moving on, Justice. You came from the private sector before you joined the court in 2009, and you also came from the academe. And there is a story, and confirm if this is true or not, that the day before you were appointed, you actually went to court to appear, and you had an unpleasant experience with a judge. So I don't know if it's truth or fiction, but if there is truth to this story, what did you learn from that experience, and how has that affected your perception and how you deal with lower court judges?
Well, it's really fiction. Although I really had run-in with the judge. I forgot the name of the judge already, but she's an honest judge, by the way. Except that she is, what do you call it? I think she is ill. They say that she is ill. And she had a short temper. And I was presenting a witness, and he was telling me that, what do you call that, I did not prepare for my cases. And that's not true, no? She somewhat insulted me, and I forgot already what it was. But I told him that he has no right, she has no right to insult me. That's what I told him. I told her, because I prepared for my cases. So after that, well, I told her I am going to file for inhibition because of that. But later on, a friend of mine, just Elvira Panganiban or something in Quezon City, called me up. He's her best friend, told me about it. And so he said, I don't plan to file any case against her because she's an honest judge. That's not something I'm going to do to an honest judge. But I said that it's just a misunderstanding between us, and that's not my purpose. I can understand she has problems. And that's it. No? That's, although by coincidence, I became Associate Justice, and then she got sick, I understand. So, but before she got sick, we somewhat reconciled through Justice Panganiban.
Thank you, Justice. Now, coming from the outside, as they say, prior to your appointment to the High Court, how important is it to you today that an insider is appointed to the position of Chief Justice?
Well, if a candidate has what it takes to be a Chief Justice, he can be an outsider or an insider. But I have, of course, a natural bias for the insiders, because the insiders are tested. Their performance are on the record. You can look at it, and then you can listen to people and see what they have done. But if you hire, if the president appoints an untested outsider who will serve for 18 to 20 years, you take a lot of risk. If later on he turns out to be mediocre, show-off, lazy, ineffective, well, he has to commit an impeachable offense to get him out. And you would have then bound the country to a Chief Justice for 20 years. So maybe it's not... so that's why I have a bias for insiders in that way. Not necessarily myself.
In contrast, what can a Chief Justice achieve in 2 years?
Well, I think a lot. For example, the reforms that I'm working on can take place in 2 years. And these are substantial reforms, like changing the system for hearing cases and decongesting the jails. I mean, also in a committee where we're working to decongest the jails and reduce the population into 1/2 in the next 2 years. And the rest, Your Honor, I'll sow the seed that may be reaped by the future.
Thank you, Justice. You chose not to inhibit yourself from acting on the petition filed by Solicitor General Frank Chavez on the composition of the JBC. The reason being, and I quote, "You found no compelling reason to do so." End of quote. in what cases did you feel compelled to inhibit yourself from participating, and why?
Well, when I feel I have a bias that I could not control or something like that, huh? Then I'm going to inhibit myself. And those compulsory inhibition that we have,